Hi, y'all, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Well, today, Donna Adelson had another hearing, and there was some good news for her in terms of her attorneys being accepted by the court. But there was also some really bad news. You had to watch closely to see it. I'm going to show you that clip. I'm going to explain to you why I think it's really significant, why it's going to be a major impact on her case. Now, the judge had asked her attorneys confirm that you don't have a conflict of interest. That was the big issue to happen today at the hearing. You're going to watch clips of that tonight. It's going to be very short. We're just going to zip through it. Not going to overdo it. I'm just going to tell you what happened, and we'll talk about why, especially the news about Donna Adelson, is so significant. So she is going to, I believe, want a faster trial. I think it's also going to affect any kind of conflicts of interest in terms of whether they were planned. We'll get to all of that. Special shout out to the first five in the chat tonight: Lila L., Rita Young, Desert Rose, Bama Queen, and Buckwheat. Welcome, especially to all of y'all, but to everybody. Reminder too, this is Mods Week here on the channel. So all super chats this week go to the mods. And we are so grateful to have Mama Pinks, Marlon, and Denise Pelton with us as moderators. So let's talk briefly about the case. The Adelson case has been pending for years and years now. The origin of the case was when two hitmen killed a law professor named Dan Markel in his own driveway as he was parking in the garage. The original hitmen were convicted or pled guilty. A woman who hired them, according to the prosecution, was also convicted, also serving in prison. Then it moved all the way back to the Adelson family. The Adelsons Wendi Adelson had been married to Dan Markel, the law professor. She also was an attorney, also a law professor. And according to the prosecution, Charlie Adelson, her brother, and her mother, Donna Adelson, hired a hitman. They hired the middleman. They hired Katie Medbanowa to hire the hitman. Charlie was finally convicted a little over a year ago, and just 2 weeks afterwards, his mother was arrested, Donna Adelson, also charged. She still has not gone to trial. Last September, she was all set for trial, ready, on the cusp. The jury was literally out there waiting to come in for voir dire, to be asked the questions about whether or not they could be fair and impartial jurors, when suddenly the whole thing imploded. What happened was that Charlie, who, as I said, had been convicted, said he objected to Daniel Rashbaum interrogating him, asking him during cross-examination. Now, Daniel Rashbaum had been Charlie's attorney and now was Donna Adelson's attorney. Now, we've covered that whole issue in several different videos, so you can go back and watch those. I'm just going to give you the overview today, which is that Daniel Rashbaum finally realized during that hearing that he could not represent Donna Adelson at all. He had a conflict of interest because he had represented Charlie Adelson before. Then everyone figured, okay, no problem. He had an attorney working with him, an assistant attorney. Maybe that attorney can handle it. And that attorney hired yet a third attorney. But the judge, after thinking about it for a week or so, said, you know what? No, none of you can be in this case. We need brand new counsel who have no conflicts and haven't worked with anybody who's had a conflict. So at that point, Donna Adelson hired two new lawyers. But then there was yet more trouble around that. We covered that in a video just a couple of videos ago. So you can go back and take a look at that. The two attorneys she hired were Jackie, a man named Zellman, and then another woman who had been a former judge, Jackie Fulford. She was now in retirement, forced retirement from her judgeship based on some kind of permanent disability, which was not explained after there were complaints about her, and there had actually been some complaints filed related to her conduct. None of that was resolved. Instead, she was forced into retirement on that permanent disability and yet still practices law. So none of that appeared to have to do with what the issue was. And yet, here is what the judge said. Let me add to the stage. He issued this order saying that, oh, that's the wrong order. That is the Supreme Court order forcing her into involuntary retirement. But the order I meant to show you was this one. Let me see if I can I can just read it. It's not critical that I show it to you, but I might as well. Let me. I'll just read it. Okay. The judge in Donna Adelson's case said it's ordered in a judge that attorneys Zellman and Fulford perform a comprehensive conflict of interest check as it pertains to prior representation of co-conspirators, co-defendants, or witnesses in Leon County, and name specific case numbers to them. And that they be prepared at the upcoming case management conference, which was today, to fully address all conflicts of interest issues or certify their representation of the defendant will be conflict-free. So once again, there was an issue about conflict of interest being raised in Donna's case, and this time with her new attorneys 4 and particularly number 5, Fulford. So during this particular hearing, they were supposed to come forward. The issue with Fulford, the former judge, was that she had been involved in dealing with the estate of Dan Markel after he was murdered. At that time, the Adelsons had not been convicted, even charged. There was no connection known, but the estate still had to be worked through. And there were early on suspicions about the Adelsons, so there may have been suspicions, but no charges against anybody. And so at that point, the judge's concern was, I would assume, whether or not her involvement in working on the estate conflicted. And we went through what the statute would be and what the rules would be around that. So today at the hearing, the very first thing that happened was the attorney stated to the judge, we have researched it and we do not believe we have any conflicts. We've been through the witness list. We've looked at everybody. We do not believe we have any conflicts. And here's what happened next at the hearing.
Of any prior representation, which I believe made it necessary to disqualify the previous attorneys for the defendant. That does not appear to be an issue here. The court is aware of the fact that Ms. Fulford did handle as a judicial officer the probate of Daniel Markel. However, my review of that matter as well does not reveal anything unusual or abnormal as it relates to any probate case that would be handled in this circuit. Does the state have any issue that it needs to raise concerning the conflict checks and the response to the court that has been offered?
Nothing other than what was discussed at sidebar, Your Honor.
Very well. Moving on to the issue of...
Okay, let's stop there for just a minute. So the judge said he himself had looked at it, reviewed it. He didn't think there was going to be any kind of conflict or problem. So he was going to allow Donna Adelson's attorneys to go ahead and represent her. He said, state, do you have anything you want to argue? Are you concerned? Is there some worry that we need to have? And the state said, no, we've already covered anything that there was to cover. And so they are now moving forward. The lawyers have been cleared to represent Donna Adelson. So it was not a concern about her being representing him in the probate matter. And we talked about the fact that it had to be in connection with a matter, and maybe that would be considered different. And also it had to be personally and substantially connected to the other matter. So there really might not have been a sufficient connection between the probate of Dan Markel's estate and the murder trial of Donna Adelson for having murdered Dan Markel. So they're saying these are different things and we're going to allow it. So they went through what has happened in the case so far, that they've gotten limited discovery from prior counsel. I want you to listen to how careful they've been not to have any contact with Daniel Rashbaum.
Discovery, Mr. Zellman, Ms. Fulford, did you receive discovery without annotation from prior counsels?
Yes, Your Honor. We've received limited items from prior counsel. We had a phone conference last week with both Ms. Kappelman and Ms. Dugan. Their office is going to be providing us with hard copies, or electronic copies rather, of all of the deposition transcripts rather than try to secure them from prior counsel, as well as all of the exhibits from the prior trials and any additional materials. They're working with us on that. Their legal assistant is out until tomorrow, so when she's back in, we'll contact her to get those materials. Other than that, the state did provide each, both Ms. Fulford and myself, with complete copies of all the materials, all the discovery.
I think that was a little overkill. I don't think they had to do that, but I think they were so paranoid about contacting Daniel Rashbaum that they're actually getting the discovery from the state. Just like, let's just bypass that. It is a rule from the bar that if you represent a client and they want a different attorney, you have to pass their file on. You can't hold their file hostage. So I think it would have been fine to have gotten the file directly from Daniel Rashbaum, but it seems like they're being just super careful. And they don't seem to feel like there's a lot left to do in the case. They will be doing new things in the case, but not a ton. Here's what they said.
As to any depositions you may need to take yourself, Mr. Zellman, have you identified any, or is this too early in the process?
We've identified a few that Ms. Fulford and I have discussed. We have not yet spoken with Ms. Kappelman or Ms. Dugan about who those individuals are. I think that once we have that conversation, it'll be obvious why we want to take those depositions, but I don't anticipate it would be many of the witnesses.
Have any of these witnesses been previously deposed by the former counsels?
Potentially one has. That would be Mr. Corbett. But aside from that, I don't think that we intend to re-depose anyone who has previously been deposed in Ms. Adelson's case.
And the court went on to set a possible date. Let me make this a little bit different format. Let me rephrase that. The court did not set a trial date, even though the lawyers offered a potential date next summer. Here's what we
had
said.
a phone conference with both of the prosecutors and review of your calendar, and although it's not established this way on your calendar, we were able to identify a trial period that all of us would be available, as well as the witnesses that we have. That trial period would have been June the 16th to July the 2nd. Not sure if Your Honor would be able to make that available to us, but that's when we all were available to try the case.
I would need to check my personal calendar because we all answer to someone and I answer to Mrs. Everett.
Yes, sir.
Whether or not I'm available the first week of July, I cannot tell you at the moment, but I will check.
Well,
I think the anticipation is that it would end on the Friday before that first week of July. That would really encompass the July 4th holiday, I think is what was anticipated.
Yeah, that was just out of an abundance of caution, adding those 2 days.
Before we discuss a firm trial date, and again, any trial date we said, I want to be clear on this, is going to be firm. There's too much logistics that are involved with moving prisoners, with everyone who needs to be brought to here for making this trial actually happen. So when that trial date is set, it is going to be firm. However, you will have the time that you need to prepare.
So the judge didn't want to set a trial date because of the feeling that we want to make it firm. When we pick a date, we want to know absolutely everything is done and nothing will stand in the way of that, because there are just a lot of moving pieces that have to happen in order for the trial to happen. Because, for example, if Charlie Adelson is going to testify, he's actually been up in, I think it was South Dakota, in a prison up there, and he's going to have to be brought down. We're going to have Katie Medbanoa brought in. Luis Rivera will have to be brought in. He was one of the hitmen, and Katie Medbanoa was the one who allegedly hired him and has been convicted of that. So all of those people have to be in place, ready to testify, so that the trial can move smoothly. And the judge is saying, I want to make sure we are all set to go, that there's nothing in the way before we finalize and pick that trial date. However, I'm going to tell you why I think that trial date may end up being about then. That's going to relate to the big difference we saw in Donna Adelson. We'll be getting to that. Now, the defense raised a couple of other issues. One was that there had been a sealed hearing. We don't know what happened at that sealed hearing before the first trial, before Donna Adelson's first trial. That, well, it never actually ended up being a first trial, but before it was set and about to start. So it was so sealed that the new lawyers weren't even able to see it. So they wanted the judge to say, you know, okay, yeah, that's kind of silly. Obviously, Donna Adelson's new lawyers can see a hearing that happened before her almost first trial.
As to that, I will go ahead and grant that motion to unseal, so that way the defense will have access to the record that was developed during the hearing on September 5th.
And then we learned that everyone is so worried about the conflict that they're even afraid to use the same investigators. And the judge said, yeah, pretty much just don't even use the same investigators.
We want to make certain that we don't run afoul of your order with respect to the prior conflict of counsel. They had retained one or more investigators who did interviews of certain witnesses, and we just want to know whether we would be able to use the same investigators, or does the court prefer, and do you believe your ruling indicates that we need to go steer clear of everything they did and do our own?
Like everything in life, it depends what was discussed between the prior counsels and the investigators.
Yeah.
Your Honor, to be honest, because of your order disqualifying, we have not even spoken with the investigator or investigators that were previously retained because we did not want to create a conflict.
I can speak to the investigators in camera if you desire, but at the moment, it's probably best to consider them the fruit of the poisonous tree.
And what he means is, fruit of the poisonous tree means there's already been a problem with a conflict, so you should probably just assume that all investigators are also part of the problem. They're also going to have the same problem. The tree itself is poisonous, so the fruit from the tree is poisonous also. And so you shouldn't use the investigators until I've at least talked to them and ensured. Now, why is everybody so worried about this? Because Charlie Adelson is now claiming that because of these conflicts of interest, he gets a brand new trial. It can uproot everything. So people are trying to make sure that whatever happens in this case, it's the actual trial, not the first trial, and then there's a second trial yet to happen. The next hearing will be February 11th at 2:30, so a pretty long way away. Discovery will be exchanged. Depositions will be set by then. The judge will be ready to set the trial
Let's
date.
go ahead and set a follow-up case management then for February 11th at 2:30 in the afternoon. At that point, I believe all discovery, depositions, exhibits should be turned over prior to that date. Any depositions that the defense is seeking to take, including another deposition of Sergeant Corbett, go ahead and have those set at that point. And at that time, if it's possible, we will go ahead and set the trial date and establish all other deadlines.
Now, before we get to the next part where you're going to see Donna Adelson and what her condition was at the hearing, and I'm going to show you something from before this hearing so you can compare the two. But before we get to that, what happened here at the end was yet another in-camera conference. So yet more that we didn't get to hear, and I can't tell you exactly what happened. I also want to say thank you to some people. I want to say thank you to In His Will and to Bethany for gifting 10 lawyerly memberships. I appreciate that. Scar Motley and Me has been a member for 5 months. That's great. Well, thank you for the nice comment on my hair. I appreciate that. Thank you. And Janet for our amazing mods, and they are amazing. I'm very grateful to have their help all year long, and so grateful for that. And thank you to you for giving to them. Murky Piglet, thank you, mods. Yes, indeed. Really appreciate that, and thank you for your gift. And Bethany, 10 lawyerly memberships. Thank you. That's 20 tonight. Thank you so much, Bethany. I really appreciate that. If you're not a member, the mods will put into the chat how exactly you turn on the ability to receive a gifted membership. You can always join, unless you're on your iPhone, using the join button right down there by the title of the channel, Lawyer Lee. There should be a join button and you can join, and which it's a cost to join. And you can do that anytime. But if you want the free gifted membership, YouTube gives those out randomly. And so you have to turn on the ability to receive those. Redondo Beach, I agree with you. I never could get over the actual money laundering either. That was absolutely nuts. Chico Karen, thank you to our mods, Mama Pinks, Marlon, and Denise. Thank you, Chico Karen. I appreciate that. JB Kids Co., best mods in the land. Completely accurate and true. Thank you. And Nani Ann, thank you. All right, let's take a look at Donna Adelson as she left the hearing. Her attorneys talk to her. She's behind the attorney talking to her. You can kind of see her head. And notice how they're kind of leaning in solicitously. Just notice that. She's been in prison for a year now, a little bit over a year. Just kind of notice how she's walking. And then notice the guard who comes around and kind of helps her in a really kind way. That woman looks like she just must be really nice. I mean, she's really helping Donna, who moves very slowly as she leaves the courtroom. So we'll pull that back just a little bit so you can see that part again. She seems to me, my read of this, you could not see this when she was sitting down. At first, it was not apparent, but as she walked out, she looked haggard, she looked very slow, and she seemed to have some difficulty. The fact that the guard came up and helped her, I just thought, I bet she's a really nice person, that guard. But you know how she seems to be, she isn't holding on to her like she's about to run away. She's assisting her. She's helping her out as Donna Adelson makes her way to over there. Now, I thought it would be interesting for you to see what Donna Adelson looked like back when she was arrested, because it was pretty different.
Okay. All right, so we don't have the meds, honey. They're all in here.
They're moving and walking.
Give me 1 moment, please. Hold the body. 1 moment.
I cut the sound here because I had some music in the background. You see how she's walking quite normally and completely unassisted. He's holding on to her, but that's more, I think. I mean, he doesn't seem to be supporting her. He's just holding on to her. And you can see her walking completely unassisted as she goes down the breezeway there at the airport. So it seemed to me to be a dramatic difference. And I want to talk for just a minute about what I perceived anyway as a pretty dramatic difference and what it's going to mean for the trial and for Donna Adelson, because it has some significant impact. First and most importantly, it's going to impact what her lawyers do, because her lawyers, and let me go ahead and ask this question. Go ahead and put in the chat. I'm going to flip over there. What did you think? Did you see a really big difference between the two? Did you feel like she had deteriorated while in prison and was less able than she had been a year ago? It's not a total shock. She's in her 70s, and prison is difficult for anyone, of course. But in this particular case, one of the things that causes is the attorneys have to really think about this trial as being the only trial that she'll have a chance to have. It won't really do them any benefit to have an appeal 2 years or 3 years down the road. That's always not as good as winning the first time, but it may even be pointless for Donna Adelson, because by the time the appeal gets decided, she may be too ill to enjoy her time out. So they will be constantly thinking about this trial as the trial, the only one that she'll probably ever have. It's not that they wouldn't appeal. It's just that it can't be the focus. It can't be, we're just trying for an appeal. We think this court will be unfair. There can't be any of that. It has to be this trial intensely focused. The second thing is they have to constantly be thinking of the idea that their client needs a speedy trial as fast as possible. So they were already up there. As you saw, they were suggesting, how about June? And I think they'll push for that. I think they'll keep those dates open and they will push for a June trial because they're going to want that trial to happen as quickly as possible because it is Donna Adelson's, my guess would be, probably her only chance at getting out before she becomes significantly more unable to enjoy her time out. Now, what are the chances that they're going to win at trial? I would say remote and small. I would say it's going to be very difficult for them to win. But I just wanted you to kind of understand what their thinking is likely to be. If they perceive that their client is declining physically or in any other way while in prison, it puts a lot of emotional pressure on them to go ahead and get the trial done and to have it resolved for their client because there just won't be another chance. There won't be time, and she needs the answer now. So I think that will affect and impact the trial. It'll even affect things like decisions about witnesses. Let's say a witness can't come to that trial date. They may just say, okay, fine. We still want that trial date. We don't want any changes. We want this date to go ahead and happen quickly, and we want to get it over with. Our client needs that to happen. So I think that that'll constantly be in the back of their minds. I'm curious about whether y'all all thought that. I'm taking a look. Looks 10 years older. I thought the same thing. I've thought she looked so much older. And I don't think she looks terrible for her age, but I thought in the early pictures after she was in prison, I kind of liked her hair back and then the ponytail. I thought it looked pretty good. But here she just seemed less able to move. She seemed like she had some physical issues. She seems about the same, says Veronica. Maybe I'm overreading it. I still think it will likely be a constant presence, both in terms of what she's saying to her attorneys, like, let's go, let's get this done, and in terms of what they're thinking about. So let me go over, and if you have some questions, go ahead and put that in the chat with some question marks first. And who we have? Okay. Jackie P., thank you for gifting a Lawyer League membership. I really appreciate that. Mama Pinks is pointing out that she's wearing shackles. Definitely true. Definitely true. But I think the way she was supported, I don't think she had to be supported because of the shackles. I think she had to be supported because she seemed to be very slow and sluggish and less able to move. To me, that's how I do agree she had shackles and it can make an impact on how she moves. But that woman was really supporting her, not just holding on to her, allowing her to walk more slowly because she had shackles, but literally supporting her. So to me, that's how I looked at it and read it. Alita DeBrune is giving a donation for the best channel team. I completely agree with that. I'll take just a couple of questions. We won't do many tonight. I'm going to go short tonight. She does look tired. I agree with that, says Connie, and I agree with that. I'm looking. Here we go. Marley Mum wants to know, has Rashbaum been thrown under the bus by Charlie? It certainly is a problem for Rashbaum because he says that Charlie agreed to the conflict, but got nothing in writing. Now, if he got nothing in writing, then that's a problem. That's frankly on Daniel Rashbaum. That really should have been gotten in writing. It's also on it. There's blame to go around for absolutely everyone here. But he says Charlie did agree. So if Charlie changed his mind, agreed, and took it back, that's a problem, yes. But if he didn't get it in writing, that means he doesn't really have any proof of it, that there was a change. All right. Abuela, could she be adding a little bit on her own for the mercy of the court? Certainly it's possible that what she's doing is, faking it. It just didn't look like it to me. And the fact that the guard just was so helpful just seemed to me like she believed that there was an issue. That's how I read it. And to me, the guard looked like just a really nice person. That was my immediate thought was, wow. Annie K., do you think she and Charlie's situation with one another's cases is a mess now? I don't think Donna's is, but I think Charlie's might be. A mess in the sense that there may now be, he's asked to have the case sent back from the appellate court to the trial court for a decision about whether he gets a new trial because of the conflict of interest. And I think there are some real issues around that. It's not a pretend, it's not a fake, those are real issues. And we will wait and see what the court does with them. First the appellate court, and then if it chooses to send it back, the trial court. So I think that could be a mess in the sense that he, may get another trial. That may actually happen. I don't think it's a mess in terms of the underlying evidence against him, I think that will be similar and the same. Now, Donna's trial, I think, will move forward. It just has to move forward with different attorneys. It was caught early enough that I don't think there's going to be an issue there. All right. Connie, do you think it's going to be a long trial? I don't think so. There was some talk today about how long it would be, and I don't think it's going to be particularly long. There was discussion about, and I don't mean, let me correct that. There was talk on among lawyers, not though at the hearing, about how long it would be, and I think it's going to be a little right around the time Charlie's was. There's the issue she has that's separate, related to her attempt to flee to Vietnam. I can't imagine that would take a tremendous amount of time to discuss. Part of the issue will be whether or not Charlie testifies and whether or not Donna testifies. So if Charlie testifies, then Donna might not have to. If Charlie doesn't, Donna may well be, need to testify. So I think that'll play a large role in how long it takes. But I don't expect it to be way more than a week, something along those lines. They did it last time in, I think, 8 days or something. So maybe 2 weeks on the outside. Annie, oh, no, same question. Annie K is asking me. Let's see. Looking for question marks at the beginning. We may be about through. I'll take one more if I can find one. And well, we may need to, yeah, we do need to. Okay. So Angie asking me, could Dan be a lot smarter than we thought in all of this? That was a thing. Thank you for asking this question, Andy, because it was the exact point that I wanted to make, and I have forgotten this. The way she was walking, the fact that she seems to be very affected by being in prison, coupled with the fact that she cried very hard after Daniel Rashbaum was removed, suggests to me this is certainly not a plot that Donna Adelson was involved in. Now, could it be something that Daniel Rashbaum and Charlie cooked up? I doubt that sincerely. I don't think Daniel Rashbaum was involved. I really think what we saw today, that walk and how she was walking, all of that, I think all of that is related to the fact that Daniel Rashbaum was very close to Donna Adelson. And I think she was very upset by the fact that he wasn't going to represent her. I think she felt safe and comfortable with the idea that he would represent her. I don't think she was involved in a plan for this. I actually don't think that Daniel Rashbaum and Charlie were either, although it was really surprising that they didn't button this up more with some written documents where he waived the conflict, where it would have been really clear what had happened. I just don't think, my guess is that what happened, this conflict came out, his attorneys were like, whoa, wait a minute. You can't be cross-examined by your former attorney. That would be bad. They filed this motion and suddenly they realized, wait, there might be more. There might be more that they could do or find around this conflict. And that's when they came up with the argument. That's my best guess. None of us can know for sure. I don't think it was planned. I just don't think it was. Okay, so let's see. Candy, thank you so much for the super sticker for the mods tonight. If you're just coming in, all super stickers tonight go to the mods to thank them for all the work they do all year long. Neuropsych Zena, she's probably feeling pretty alone and abandoned. I agree. I would think that's most likely the case, and probably unable to talk to very many people. So CT Annie, agree completely. Best mods on YouTube. And Sunset Gazing IMO, also thanks for being such a great group of mods. I will see you all tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. I think we will be back to covering the arrest of Luigi Mangione, and we will be talking more about that. There are several other cases we have in store, so hit the subscribe button. If you'd hit the like button for the video tonight, I'd appreciate it, and I will see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern.